is the semifinals. Winner of this set goes on to play Dynamic in a best-of-5 finals, but this right here, best-of-3, so we'll see where we go from here. Meet Playground. First ban, first pick, having a sub in for Pobelter. I believe he's actually going to be in game number 2, and if it ever actually gets that far, game number 3. But first ban's coming in Alistar and Malphite.
Yeah, and I just realized Erwin Booz, he was actually one of those names that was in the running for replacing Locust when they, when they pulled in Patoy. Patoy was, clearly a front runner, and he definitely made sense as far as a pickup. But Erwin Booz was one of those names that people have been talking about, and then everyone was like, wait a second, Erwin Booz, Cutie Pie, and Dominate all on the same team? Dear God, what have we done?
So tell me a little bit more about the history of the Booze.
I actually don't know a lot about that was a cool, sentence. I wish I could follow it up with an equally cool history. Erwin Booz, back in 1879, was the founder of the Booz Family Orchard, which later became a distillery. And in the, Civil War throughout the, mid-1800s, they actually fought for both the North and the South. It was a contentious battle, and Erwin Booz's family was able to come on top. I couldn't tell you anything about Erwin Booz. I know that he's a solid player. He's a very strong player is what I know about him. I think that there's some talk about like how technically he might not be mechanically the strongest player. Like he maybe has some mechanical things like being slightly out of position at times or whatnot. But I know he's a very strong player. I don't know a lot about him.
Well, it's the more we see Meet Playground, the more we're going to be seeing these guys. So, and that's the best thing about you got all these teams coming up. Is everyone's moving away or getting booted off the teams, and I was just like, that's a good reason. Let's get some people together. Might as well get a new team going, and that's where we got a whole bunch of new faces, new names going. Because I'm sure there will be going to be at least a few people watching now. Who's like, Meet Playground. Who the hell are these guys? That
Well, that was actually my reaction.
You're about to see in a few minutes. But first pick, escaped the bans.
Yeah.
Is the Zyra, which we've discussed quite a bit in the past as well. But if you take a look at a lot of these bands, though, Malphite, Shen, Alistar, Nocturne, a lot of them are very jungle-oriented. You do have the Blitz, you do have the TF out as well from Dignitas.
And the big thing with a couple of them in particular, Alistar, Malphite, and Shen, those are all champions that are incredibly powerful. I mean, we've seen time and time again how unbelievably strong they are, but they're strong without farm. They don't need farm. They don't really need a whole lot in order to be successful. Mm-hmm. So they're just very safe picks. They make up a team very well. Zyra is just phenomenal, but they go ahead and grab that Rumble. And we had talked about how Rumble is one of those champions that Crumbs really prefers playing. He's one of he doesn't have a lot of versatility in the top lane. Like he plays a couple of champions to a really high level, and those are his core. Rumble's in it, and then Ezreal as well. That's definitely a Cutie Pie favorite, but Ezreal all around is just phenomenal right now. Just one of the strongest champions in the game.
You do have the Nunu being considered here for Meet Playground, and we've been seeing a lot of Nunu lately, mostly in the support role, both in the NA and on the EU. But some teams are also, willing to give him that jungle, and he's fantastic. He still has a great presence.
Yeah, no, he's a very strong champion. I think that if they didn't take Nunu, it would be one of those champions that, Patoy would gladly play in the bot lane with Ezreal. And Ezreal Nunu lane can be just really difficult to deal with. I really like the Aurelia pick. Cho would be kind of interesting because we've started to see Cho coming back into play since some of his changes. But I feel like Aurelia for a long time has just been very strong, and now with some of the nerfs to some of the top laners, she's just phenomenal. Like, she's just such a strong all-around pick. She can lane against anyone in the game. She has kill potential in the top lane, so you have the gank follow-up if they gank the top lane, and then as the game progresses, once you're farmed, you're just, a beast. Like, Aurelia just wins games. So everything about her just makes her a very strong pick right now. It's mainly because the fact that she has almost no weaknesses.
Yeah, and she's been a top pick and competitive for a very long time. I think like right before IPL 4 is when she started getting those nerfs to her kit. And before then, especially like in the EU scene, I know some teams like when AAA was still around, Aurelia was a must ban every single game. But following the nerfs, there was a little bit of a dry patch. And Aurelia, you didn't quite see her as often, but now, recently, very recently, you start seeing her, the trap, everyone's picking her back up again.
Yeah, and really enjoy the Skarter pick that Dignitas have been using a lot recently, and it is kind of that Korean style that they kind of brought back. A lot of the that kind of style it tends to do with more pushing and more aggression, but Skarter, just the fact that you can guarantee a kill on someone basically if Skarner lands his ultimate is very strong. Then he's a mobility jungler, and it makes him more of a reactionary jungler. I mean, he can play the offensive role, but he's also very strong at counter ganks, and that tends to be the case with a lot of those mobility junglers. So he's just all around a strong pick. Now against the AOE team, though, that Meat Playground is starting to set up, we'll see who they go with support. I would say that Sono is probably the best choice. Actually, Jaina actually would be very smart, but Lulu, wow.
It's something they've done before. It's something they're familiar with. Lulu support. That ult on a very tanky frontline champ, or someone who's going to be looking to dive in, i.e. Skarner, can be huge, can be absolutely huge.
Well, we've seen Patoy play Lulu in the past, and his Lulu has been very strong as that support. The harass from the Glitter Lance has been phenomenal, and that's always cool. When you see a good Lulu support who's able to just get that Glitter Lance spam harass is very nice. And then just the fact that she'll give anyone a tanky presence is awesome. Like it shuts down a lot of the AoE damage that they have, or also the single target burst from champions like Aurelia and Zyra if they can't get into that back line. So that's definitely going to be very nice. I still feel like Janna would have been interesting to see because of how well Janna synergizes with Skarner and the movement speed that she gives their team, and then obviously the disengage for the ultimates. But we'll see where they go with this because having the Lulu, it makes bot lane incredibly difficult to deal with, and that goes against the Nunu. And there's one thing that Janna doesn't give you. Janna doesn't do particularly well against a Nunu lane. Nunu tends to win that lane against that lane matchup with Janna. So as a result, Dignitas, I'm sure that's kind of going into their thought process, is one, that they're very happy to have Patoy play Lulu because he does play a very strong Lulu, and Lulu Ezreal is just a phenomenal lane. But then two, also, Lulu does a little bit better against Nunu than Janna does. So we'll get to check that out. But Corki Nunu is an incredibly strong lane. It's very difficult to deal with at times.
All right, let's get a little bit more into specifics then. Like, what specifically in Lulu's kit makes her better in this matchup as opposed to Janna?
Well, the big thing is Lulu is just a phenomenal duelist. So her skill set is a little bit more aggressive than Janna's. The shield, it's not popped as readily as Janna's, but you don't lose the damage output when you pop Lulu's shield, whereas you do with Janna's. Then you also have to consider that she has easier ranged harass than Janna does. Janna's ranged harass is primarily just auto attacks, but Lulu has that glitter lance spam, and Nunu's very vulnerable to harass, particularly like from the glitter lance spam. But when they're dueling, Nunu is just going to win almost every head-to-head matchup. So Lulu does pretty well in those matchups, but then you also have to consider it's the shield with the ultimate. So whereas Janna's kit is a little bit more defensive, she has knockups and knockbacks, Lulu's is more offensive-minded. It's about just making Ezreal unstoppable so that Ezreal can take anyone down. So that fact definitely works out. But we'll see where they go from there.
Now I forget too. Now I know Janna's shield adds AD. I thought I'm remembering now. Is like doesn't Lulu's
it adds
shield?
It adds damage.
It adds AP.
Yes, it's magic damage. So that's actually a nice mix to consider for Ezreal. But I'm not sure if that actually would proc on Ezreal's Qs. I think it does.
I believe it is mixed, and plus also the other his W scales off AP.
No. Her W gives AP. No, her shield doesn't give AP. It gives. There's her W, which gives you bonus movement speed and ability power. Her shield, actual shield, like Janna's shield, it gives you Lulu's passive, which adds to your auto attacks.
Right.
Magic damage. Sorry, I didn't realize what you were talking about. Yeah, so Lulu's shield, it adds magic damage to his attack. I'm not sure if that procs on his Q, and I think it does, but I'm not positive. We'll have to. I guess we'll just see shortly. Yeah. But if it does, then that kind of harass can be very strong, and we'll have to take a look at that. But I think that's a lot of what Dignitas is going for right now. They have very safe lanes, they have very strong lanes, and then they're going to look for the mobility of Skarner to just roam around the map. Skarner has a little bit more of a map presence than Amumu does. Amumu, if you miss the bandage toss, and usually in high-level play, it's pretty easy to dodge a bandage toss, then you're kind of screwed. Like, you're not going to really contribute that much. Whereas Skarner, he has the mobility. I'm assuming Dominate, actually, if we check real quick, we have 1 second. Never mind, we don't get it. I'm 95% sure that Dominate runs movement speed on Skarner. And having that movement speed on a mobility jungler like Skarner can definitely be huge. I mean, just being able to close the gap, he is very strong in those early fights. So it should be pretty interesting. The AoE, can't be underestimated for Meat Playground, though. And Zyra is just such an unbelievably strong champion. She can burst anyone down, even without her ultimate. There's points in the game where she just has enough damage to kill you without her ultimate if you just land the snare. But then you also have to consider against Anivia, if she's going to egg Anivia, she also has the plants to follow up on it. The seedlings are just going to take Anivia down really easily.
And granted, though, the egg does give you a little bit of time to kill, but if Zyra gets fed beyond belief, if she has that damage, it really shouldn't be an issue. What that egg will do is at the very least if Scar manages to get back under tower and get egged under tower, or egged with presence from the jungler, from Skarner still in the lane, it'll give him that second chance. It'll give him that opportunity to actually bounce back.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's always what you're looking for with that Anivia pick. And Anivia, generally speaking, is pretty safe. But we'll see whether or not Connect can throw off any successful harass up there. Top lane should be a pretty interesting lane, but again, it is a very common matchup, having that Aurelia pick to counter out Rumble. And that's Aurelia is just a strong all-around pick, but in particular, Rumble as a champion, he has a lot of damage, has a lot of upfront damage, but he's very squishy early on, and the best way to counter him is by bruisers with aggressive initiation. That's what Aurelia has 100%. With a gank and whatnot, they see each other, so NKink's going to have to back off. But Scar getting some nice auto attack arrest. Really not that big of a deal. But anyway, Aurelia, she has that initiation where you can just dive after Rumble and take him down. You can kill him potentially. If you have a gank, you can very easily set up your ganks with Aurelia. And then once Aurelia hits a couple of levels, hits like level 7 and has some magic resist, like she'll start off with 2 quick null magic mantles and try and get a wit's end really quick. Once she has some magic resist, then her damage is just going to be phenomenal compared with Rumble's.
See, 405 movement speed to dominate. That's with the level 1 boots. So I think I believe that's I believe that's Quince. Yeah, that's Quince.
Yeah, so he's incredibly fast. So we'll see. I think a lot of the game is going to come down to how much of a jungle presence they can have. And that's true, like every game. That's like such a generic statement. I'm like, oh, jungle presence. But Rumble has enough damage to kill Aurelia, and if you have the turnaround, that's actually partially why a reactionary jungler usually helps with Rumble. If you have someone like Mundo or Shyvana, Nocturne, or in this case Skarner, someone that's fast enough to get up to your lane if stuff's going down, then Rumble can kite for a second and then turn it around really easily because he has a little bit of range damage, but he has great sticking potential. Both Aurelia and Rumble actually have great sticking potential when a gank's coming in to just not allow your opponents to get out of there.
So both of the junglers going to be getting those wolves and then securing their blue. Not going to get too terribly aggressive, but there is ward coverage here from both teams at the tri-ramp over on the Meat Playground side. Both that everyone's going to secure their blues, move on into the lanes. And you see, there you go. You got Rumble. You got Aurelia there. Top lane. We'll see how that goes. We discussed before the Anivia versus the Zyra. And we'll see if Zyra is going to be worth a ban later on. And you also see Dominate getting really quick in and he saved his smite to actually just go in and steal the big Wraith.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he's used it to steal the big Wraith because, as opposed to using it for a fast red,
He can get to level 3, get that fast gank up top potentially, and help out Rumble a lot. He knows that if he gets up to Rumble at level 3 with the double buff, Rumble's still only going to be level 1, and actually Rumble wouldn't be able to help out on that gank, so it wouldn't be successful. They wouldn't be able to pick up a kill, so there's not really a reason for Skarner to want to go grab that fast red, whereas most other junglers would, just because Rumble doesn't have that follow-up for the first couple of levels. So as a result, he runs over, he steals the Wraith from Amumu, sets him a little bit behind, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, so that experience is going to be about a half a level worth. Maybe about a third of a level worth of experience that he's sitting Amumu behind, and if he manages to get a kill, something happening down top lane, that could actually just continue further down. And Crumbs is doing pretty good right now. X-Hazard is just about to ding 3, so there's a little bit of an XP lead here for Dignitas.
Yeah, and they have to watch out for that Amumu gank coming up, and that's why Skarner's going to want to pressure that top lane, not allow that engage, but X-Hazard on Aurelia has that follow-up potential, and Rumble moving a little bit too far forward, gets the snare onto Crumbs, the follow-up from NKink, the red buff, the flash, but there's the bandage toss, not going to hit. One more attack from X-Hazard, but with the movement speed, he just barely backs out of there.
Wow.
So Crumbs just barely getting away by the slimmest of margins, putting himself out of position, but fortunately not going down. And Aurelia's flash is burned as well, so an even exchange there.
Yep, so just, mutual summoners down, so both are down.
He is lucky that Amumu didn't flash after him, though.
He really is. He really is. Just being in the proximity of those tiers could very well taken him down. But that's the thing, too, with Rumbles. Like, that shield can save you out of a lot of sticky situations. And, he just popped it off at the right time, got that extra movement speed boost, and was out of there.
Oh, man, I just love watching Lulu harass sometimes, and I think you forget about how strong it can be. But just throwing a shield onto Light Sludge, throwing off the Glitter Lance at such a great range. Oh, trying to pick up the snare onto Light Sludge, actually, but that great harass. And Ezreal is very strong with that harass as well. And so they can just sit back and slowly wear them down, which is just something that Janna doesn't necessarily bring to the table. So, really cool play out of that Lulu.
And you also notice, too, that Ezreal, he's leveling up his Essence Flux first. So he wants that harass, and yes, the Q does scale AP and AD. So anyway,
I know it scales AP and AD. My question is the Q. It procs on-hit effects when you auto-attack.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it procs the on-hit effect of Lulu's shield and her passive.
Ah.
Yeah, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a curious interaction that I think it does, but I'm not sure on the answer there.
I would think so. I would hope so. I mean, if it does, then there might be some of that tech that Dignitas has been working on this entire time. Crumbs looking to exchange there with X-Hazard. Both of them right now level 5. So once the 6 comes in, then if whoever level 6 here, if Crumbs manages to get that first, that ult, he may very well just be able to grab X-Hazard under tower.
Yeah, and right now he's going to have a small advantage because Aurelia is low on mana. He's just been able to wear her down for a little bit. But once she gets back, she is going to be very low. And Ezreal can just abuse Corki now that Erwin Booz is just so low. And the Essence Flux thing has been common for a while now. That's something we've been seeing for a long time. And I think that's really brought back the rise of Ezreal once people kind of figured out that they can play Ezreal, still be very safe, but still get off lane harass. And that was one of the big issues with him. Knick, in the meantime, though, catching out I Will Dominate, gets off the snare. He will be able to back out of there, but Dominate still successful in stealing a couple of those wraiths.
He'll be fine. Just grabs those and just bees out on his merry way. Because you see Zen King actually top lane covering for Aurelia, who did have to go back and have to get back some of that mana. Double Null Magic Mantle going to be returning in a top lane, which is a pretty good idea if you're a bruiser top lane. You got face up against a whole bunch of magic damage like Rumble here. So that's going to be a Merc Treads, and you got options. Maybe even a Hex Drinker coming on in later.
Yeah, usually because Aurelia gets the damage from her W, that true damage, you're usually going to go with Wit's End on Aurelia. And Hex Drinker, you're right, is 100% a great item. It's just phenomenal. And it would block a lot of that damage from Rumble. To have that shield would be pretty nice. So that is definitely an option. We'll have to keep an eye on that. In the meantime, they are setting up around that blue, so they don't want to allow Zyra to get that blue. If they can shut her down, that's going to be huge, but NK Inc. is going to be spotted.
He is there right in the middle of things and dominating Crumbs, trying to get as much damage as he can. He does still have the flash up and does manage to get back over the wall, and it's going to be clearing enough room here for Dignitas to go ahead and steal the blue outright.
Yeah, I think that Crumbs actually could have gotten that kill if he had used his ultimate before Amumu was able to get close to the wall. So not only would it have slowed him, delayed the flash a little bit, but he would have had to walk through it. And because it's a thick wall, it's not like you can just kind of walk up to it. You have to really get up to the edge.
You have to hug it.
So I think he might have been able to pick it up, but still being safe, just recognizing, all right, we've got this free blue. We're going to be able to shut him down. That's going to be fine. And right there, you just see all of the damage that Aurelia has at this point, and that makes things very difficult for Rumble at times. He should be pretty safe once he goes back and equalizes that item advantage that Aurelia has right now, because that's part of the issue is that she's been back, whereas he hasn't been back in a while. That will be very nice, but you have to play a little bit more cautiously as Rumble. You have to worry about that true damage.
Yep, and also I can understand him wanting to save the ult, because would you want to use the ult to go ahead and grab grab a kill on a fight you're already in the advantage of, or would you like to save it, use it for maybe even a potential dive and try and turn the tables later on? And I would opt to save it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's actually a really interesting thought. The fact that if he had used the ultimate to pick up Amumu, then maybe he's going to be a little bit weaker on against Aurelia. In the meantime, Light Sludge getting caught out. The Glitter Lance, the pull back from Dominate, able to pick that up really quickly. Cutie Pie jumping out of that
Nice.
absolute zero, turning it around onto Erwin Booz. If they can get the slow, he just barely gets the flash out of there, so they're going to be okay.
That positioning from Cutie Pie was amazing. Just shifts. He just had to shift. He didn't even really have to do any extra moves. Like, I'll shift, and that's fine. I'll be out of the range of your ult. I'm going to be okay. Crumbs still taking a crap load of damage to your top lane. There goes the ult, but he's looking to just farm the wave. He just wants to push it up as much as possible, which will give him plenty of time to go back and also forces X-Hazard to use his ult in response to just make sure that the you can go ahead and clear the wave without taking too much damage. It might also be a good opportunity for X-Hazard to shop too.
And it's interesting, Rumble's ultimate, it's actually called the Equalizer.
It is,
and
yeah.
One of the things you can use it for is shutting down that lane. You equalize the lane. I know that was really bad, but it just occurred to me. In the meantime, NK Inc. kind of getting caught off here. Dominate does not have his ultimate, so he will be able to back off fine. But yeah, I mean, it does. It equalizes the lane. If you use it to push the minion waves, which is something you see a lot of times with Rumble, you just throw it down, clear out the minion wave, and then it'll reset the lane to the mid, which means it gave him enough time. He didn't miss out on any gold or experience. It gave him time to recall, which is huge. That's didn't miss out on any lane advantage against X-Hazard.
That's the one thing I never do with Rumble, and I really need to start doing, because sometimes I'll just go up in lane and it's like, I'm getting destroyed here. Right,
well,
the snare going on to Scar, but he's going to be able to walk away, no follow-up on that
That's when
one.
your teammates go, oh my god, no. All chat, did everyone see Rumble just ult the minion wave? Oh my god, he ulted the minion wave.
Yeah, I had a bad game this weekend. I was playing Rumble versus in Italy, and things just did not go all too well. But, that's in the past. We got the now. Crumbs here, top lane. You got Dominate. He was making a little bit of an appearance, but alas, the lane is just a little bit too shoved far up. Skara going to be attempting to steal Rays, which are not there, but he's going to realize, what? Bot lane's looking pretty tasty as well, but there is still a ward in that river. He was spotted out, so right now, Meat Playground knows he's still in the area. Just a matter of where, and he'll go back in the lane and realize, oh, okay, that's where. And then can't get there. The Wraiths did pop up, so he's going to go ahead and grab those while they're there.
Yeah, and Crumbs getting that Hex, or the, sorry, I forget what it's called, because we rarely see it. Yeah, so grabbing that, and it's been a while since we've seen it, but he has bought it a couple of times. We've seen a couple of Rumbles get it, and it really just increases the early game damage output phenomenally. X-Hazard almost going down, but there is a fight down by Dragon.
Yes,
and Amumu jumping back in the middle of the team. NK Inc. throwing off his ultimate, but will go down. Erwin Booz chasing after Batoy here, but he can't quite get out of range. Oh, connect. There it is, the follow-up from Anivia, able to pick up that kill, but Corki and Nunu are trying to turn this around. Dominate is actually going to be able to chase them down some, and Cutie Pie is looking handsome, so he's going to be able to chase down Erwin Booz here. The slow onto Nunu. They should be able to chase him down. The Nunu ultimate, though, Dominate's going to be very close to going down. Light Sludge is able to pick that kill. Skara does have to watch out, but there's the Flash Frost grabbing Light Sludge, able to grab the double kill. The Ignite will egg him, though, but even so, that's fine. He's got the egg.
He's fine. We've got eggs. We've got protection. You're fine. Crumbs also forcing back the Aurelia top lane. So just good all around. And the Dragon is actually still up, still there to be contested. So if right now, if Dignitas or Meat Playground decides to go back there, it's still waiting. But yeah, after that fight, Dignitas did edge out a nice little lead for themselves there. So about 2.5K up.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from farm advantages, actually. And Rumble in that top lane, despite the fact that he now has to worry about some of that damage from Aurelia, he is going to have the Magic Pen to deal with her, but he's actually 10 CS ahead, which is phenomenal for Crumbs. So, doing a really nice job there. Anivia in the mid lane, slight advantages over Zyra. Most of it comes from the fact that he's got 3 kills.
Slight advantage. That's 1,000 gold.
Well, it's the 3 kills, though. I'm saying farm advantage. They're basically even. Ezreal in that bottom lane, he's slightly ahead of Corki as well. So, just nice little lane advantages for Dignitas all around.
Yep. So with that extra kill money, Scar picked up. You have the Chalice, looking for the Rod of Ages. You already have the Catalyst and the Blasting Wand. You just need about 400 gold more to go ahead and finish that. You do have a Mumu still ducking in and out of the mid lane. But you see, everyone's gathering here for Dignitas once again at the Dragon. Top lane is left to its own devices because Crumbs is here to go ahead and help take this thing out real quick. And he's realizing, he's like, oh man, Aurelia's pushing. I need to go back right now.
Yeah, so he will go back, but it protects them in the fight. They're able to grab it very easily, so that's absolutely perfect for them. We'll see how this can progress, but right now, Dignitas is definitely looking really strong. Meat Playground, they have a huge opportunity coming into the mid game, though, because
Their AoE is going to be phenomenal. X-Hazard is doing a really nice job of farming, so his damage and backline presence is going to be very nice. The issue is who is X-Hazard going to target, because one of the best things about Aurelia is the fact that you can get into the backline and target down the AD carry or the AP carry. Well, right now, he's not going to really be able to follow up on Ezreal. Ezreal's just the safest carry in the game. Anivia, Scar is just going to be a little bit too tanky for him. So, he could jump onto Anivia, but he might just find that he doesn't have enough damage to deal with Scar, and then Scar is just going to turn it around with a Flash Frost to the face.
Yeah, that enough time is going to be killed where the egg is going to be coming back up. So that's just another whole mess of worms to go ahead and deal with. Kanketh trying to get some chip damage down, but realizing the bird is going to be hurting a little bit more for the time being. And despite being a squirrel, Nunu does still manage to get that snowball down onto Lulu. But the harass is strong with these two.
The harass is strong with this
one. It is.
I love, that was really cool watching Scar play, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. NK Inc. setting up top along with Skarner, though.
Skarner's coming on in. The edge of that ultimate from Amumu, grabbing crumbs, but realizing Dominate's here and notices it's a bad opportunity, it's a bad time. This kill's not going to happen. Has to retreat to tower and actually use the flash. Just the presence from Dominate forces the flashes away, because one grab, and that could have been a very dead Amumu, but still wasted ult, wasted flash, and that ult's not going to be coming back for quite a while. It's still level 1.
Yeah, in the previous fight with Aurelia, Skarner tower diving Amumu. They will have the damage. Crumbs has to watch out that he's not going to be pushed under tower. Dominate gets the pull. NK Inc. does not have his ultimate. The bandage toss back, but he will go down.
That's
the previous fight with Anivia, it was a minor thing, but seeing in that mid lane that he's able to get the burst onto Connect and then dodge the snare is just really cool. Watching that kind of technical ability.
And not to mention that Anivia is very capable of stealing wraiths over a wall.
Yeah.
So every time he's capable of doing it, he's gonna do it. So it's just gonna extend the farm lead that much further. And you see right now, not only are the kills a huge factor, but he's also starting to edge out that lead himself. Goes back to base, gets the Rod of Ages. That thing's gonna be full in 10 minutes, and the game's definitely gonna at least see that point. So Rod of Ages, 15-minute mark is pretty good timing.
Yeah, and you saw there Cutie Pie tanking the minion for a second. It makes sure that the minion wave is on his side. It just stalls his minion wave for a slight amount. Some nice harass damage going on to Corki, but they do have to watch out. Cutie Pie is getting kind of low, but they do have the double shield, so they should be fine. So, just holding the minion wave there, it just stalls. It makes sure they're always safe. They don't have to worry about jungle ganks. They're just always going to be on their side of the lane.
Pings, and quite a few of them from Dignitas, are actually going down in the mid and on the top to both of those champions here from Meat Playground. They're looking to try and they might try and squeak out another kill or two just to exert their dominance. And you'll notice too that a lot of the farm, the kills, the gold lead is actually extended. You have the dragon as well. That leads the gold up quite a bit, and it's almost nearly a 5K lead here for Dignitas on the 18th minute.
Yeah, and I was actually just looking at it. Zyra and Namumu, they're both coming down bottom. But Ezreal, in the meantime, Corki is diving him, actually, as well as Lulu, and they pick up the kill onto Ezreal. Lulu had gone back, so putting on that pressure while Lulu wasn't there was definitely really nice. I was actually going to say, Cutie Pie, it's interesting seeing the build diversion between Corki and Cutie Pie, trying to clear the wave, but just a little bit too close, throws off the cleanse as well, and can't quite get to the wall to throw off that flash.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Corki is going for that Triforce build, so he's going to have a lot of burst damage, just a lot of general great stuff. But then, so
out there to pull, just gets caught in his own jungle. That's really the only story you got. But hey, it still uses the ult from Skarner, so I guess you can say you used it.
Yeah, no, I mean, they pick up the kill, and they didn't, risk Amumu getting out in any sort of way or throwing off the ultimate, walking away or something. But as opposed to Ezreal, as opposed to Corki, instead of going for that Triforce, which gives a little bit more burst damage, he's going for the Bloodthirster. So he's finished that up. He's going to have a little bit more sustained damage than Corki will. With it, just the fact that he can regen in lane with neither of the supports having a heal is definitely huge. The steal from Skarner, smiting it off to make sure that Aurelia can't follow up. But that should be pretty interesting to see how that affects the lane, because with it, he's definitely going to have a nice laning presence over Corki, but Corki will have a little bit more burst damage, where maybe they can pick up kills a little bit more easily.
Yeah, so you got Light Sludge moving on back, grabbing the small golems. You know, if he's got an opportunity, might as well go ahead and use it. And also try and keep the farm up, try and see if he just can't stay even in gold, which actually for now is actually doing a pretty good job at it.
And in the meantime, they're going for the blue. They aren't able to
spot
it, but
it's not even there.
They do have to watch out bottom, because they are in position to maybe gank this.
All right, the blue now just came back up. You got Scarra waiting in that bush. He's got the ultimate down. He's looking to take it real quick, but here comes the Amumu. The bandage actually going to be hitting the blue buff. I'm pretty sure they want a Scar there, but they're not going to get it. But here comes everyone else from Dignitas. They got a nice little surround, and the Zyra going to be going down immediately. Dominate going to be in the middle of all that chaos, and the last hit, the passive from Zyra, will actually go ahead and finish that job. NK in the backline, just trying to get away from Cutie Pie. Will barely live, but Light Sludge with the Valkyrie going to be getting out there just fine. The Ezreal ult trying to get that last kill, trying to get that last hit. NK will not get it, but Scarra in full retreat. Nunu going to be done. There is the egg. Dignitas collapse on in. There's a Corki right for the taking. Shutdown coming in from Aurelia down onto the Anivia. X-Hazard, can you escape? You have no flash, you have no knight, you have very few escapes. Can you at least take someone down with you? Yes, you can. Patoy goes down, and there you go. Crumbs will get the credit for the Aurelia kill.
Yeah, really nice turnaround from Crumbs, able to come in there. But I really love, Cutie Pie's play in that fight. And there was a point in time, Aurelia came in, and they both flashed at the exact same time. Cutie Pie was like, all right, I know what's going to happen here. Aurelia's going to flash, and I'm going to die. So preemptive flash is huge, because if you flash a second too late, then Aurelia's going to get that Blade Surge, and he's dead. So him being able to stay around in the fight a little bit longer, he was able to contribute a little bit of damage to Crumbs, which really enabled them to pick up the kills. If not for that, then Crumbs probably would have gone down. Aurelia probably would have lived, and that exchange would have been in Meat Playground's favor. As it was, Dignitas coming out on top in a really hard-fought fight, and the big thing was catching Connect in the very beginning.
Yes.
Dominate jumping through the back line, coming in and flanking him. So Connect thought he was safe in the back line. He thought that he was split from the rest of the team, but Dominate just pulling him right into the middle of Anivia's damage. Really fantastic play.
And you can see right there, Connect, his ult is actually still up.
Yeah.
It wasn't even used. And that's really what you need to do with the Zyra. An NK Inc. right there, caught on the other side of the wall. There is a pause coming on up. I really hope that wasn't a DC, because that would have been incredibly unfortunate. Did he? Oh, no. That sucks. Oh, well. It happens.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the smartest of plays to just walk through the bushes to an unchecked dragon.
Right.
So hopefully everything's okay there. We are back into the game though right away, and Dignitas, as a result of NK Inc.'s, we'll call it NK Inc.'s folly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They are going to be able to grab this dragon. So they grab it pretty safely. They do back off. 7k gold advantage for them right now. We'll see how Meat Playground can try and turn this around, because the big thing is just playing defensively and continue to farm. Corki in particular needs to keep up his farm, because right now, Cutie Pie is a little bit ahead. Cutie Pie, instead of going for that Triforce build, Cutie Pie is going to have a little bit more sustain and whatnot. So Corki needs to make sure that he has enough damage to match up in fights. And with a Nunu and a Mumu combo, they have so much splitting potential. Like, the backline should generally be pretty safe. As long as they position themselves well, Corki should be safe from Skarner. Nunu can just absolute zero and completely control fights. And so the triple AoE for Meat Playground should control fights very easily, but the key is if Corki's fed enough to take advantage of that.
Yeah, or if you get someone who gets chunked out immediately at the start of the fight, like Zyra did in that last one, where you don't even manage to get the ult off in the first place. Because most AoE teams, if you get one, you usually get the rest of them for free, but you get chunked out like that, and disastrous things can indeed happen. But all the ults are all the pertinent ults, all the AoE ults for Meat Playground are up, just waiting to be used, and we'll see if they can manage to force a fight down here, and if they can go ahead and edge that one out, because you got a lot of people from Dignitas, and they're here pushing down the mid. Looks like they just want to shove and try and get an advantage.
And the big thing with Zyra is playing her as a more reactionary champion. So in team fights, you play a little bit defensively. You kite with her E, you throw off the snare, you try and pick people off, but you don't want to just go right up to the forefront and just throw off your ultimate. I mean, you need to sit back, you allow the enemy to come into you, and then once the enemy's clumped up, then you look for that opportunity. But we'll see. Dignitas, because of the short range of Rumble and Ezreal, they might tend to clump a little bit more than you would normally expect teams to, if Meat Playground can play the team fights correctly.
I like that the sapling placement there from Zyra. Actually, Mumu coming on in with the ult straight away, but you do have to pull from Scunner, bringing back Erwin Boost all the way down. Tries to get a new ult, but will not get a whole lot on that. Here comes X Hazard trying to get some damage down. QtPie is very low, but Batoy is there to support, and QtPie will actually live through all that damage. He's got that potion. Connect is very low. Light Sludge is very low, but it's still a great advantage here for Dignitas. They should be able to go ahead and take that tower pretty quick, but QtPie needs to be careful. Dominate comes on in. QtPie gets that last hit, and now Dignitas is out of there. 3 for 1.
Yeah.
Plus a tower.
Yeah, really incredible play from Dignitas. And you saw they did tend to clump up in those fights. So if Meat Playground can take advantage of the fact that Dignitas is so clumped up, because when Nunu or Amumu just jumps in the middle of the team, they tend to clump up. But the issue was Amumu is just not tanky enough at this point. So he jumped into the middle of the team. He's going for an AP-heavy build, which is going to be very strong for damage and gives him a lot with his ultimate, but he's not quite as survivable as he needs to be right now. So if he can survive a little bit longer where they still clump up, then the rest of his team will be able to follow up. But you saw they all got extremely low, and there was no follow-up. There was no kill threat from Meat Playground. Corki just constantly wearing them down on the outside. They weren't quite able to do it. So, if they had come into those fights with even gold, you could easily see how Meat Playground could have easily come out on top there. But because they were so far behind, they didn't have that little push right over the edge.
Yep, and that is the disadvantage you run doing I guess it's okay to call this the Azingi build, I suppose.
The what?
The Azingi build.
Oh, okay.
You go for 2, sometimes 3 Doran's rings on a move to start off, but yeah, you delay those.
Is that the Azingi build?
From what I've heard,
okay,
and from what people yell at me in solo queue when I attempt it, it's like oh, you think you're a Zingy, but you do have the 2 GP10s now.
AJ, do you think you're a Zingy?
Hell no, I'm not even remotely close. Not even remotely close, and never will I do that build on a Mumu again, because
I think
every time I do this build on a Mumu, every time I get like 2 or 3 Doran's rings, I always fall behind in gold, and this is a pretty huge fall off here. Just about to hit 5K at NK Inc. Dominate here. He's working about to about 7,500, so that's about a 2,000, 2,500 gold difference between these two. And if you had those GP10s earlier, you would have been able to get definitely a little bit more gold off of those, but unfortunately, that is the risk you run. If you can manage to actually get those kills, yes, the damage coming in just from that little investment in AP is huge. It can definitely turn around fights, but you need to get those kills. It's a huge risk, but huge reward.
Yeah, and you're not quite as reliant on having blue buff as you would be with Amumu. Since you want to pass it off to your mid anyway, it doesn't quite shut you down in the jungle not having it. Though Amumu tends to be okay with just the Philosopher's Stone, so it is kind of unusual to not go with that Philosopher's Stone route, but still, it's a very strong build. It gives him a lot of health, a lot of ability power. Once he starts getting some survivability to go along with it, that could be very devastating.
And even then with the mana changes on a Tantrum, nice! Money wall, but actually manages to manage over the wall. Wants to get that kill on the Scar. He is egged. He should be okay, but we'll see. No, he will not. The Nivea goes down. Right now, if Meat Playground wants to make an opportunity, this is the one. This is a great fight for him. But all of Dignitas, they're very low. It's just a matter of can Meat Playground actually finish up with the rest of the snowball going down on a QtPie, but he should be fine. X Hazard low. Light Sludge and Connect, they're all very low. The only healthy one is the Nunu. And
this is fantastic for Meat Playground.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great fight.
This is exactly what they need to happen. And the fight stalls off Dignitas. Dignitas no longer can force the Baron, no longer can force objectives. Meat Playground, they get the mid tower. They're going to be able to check the blue here. It's not up, so they'll back off. But that was absolutely huge. And I don't know, it was a really cool play from both sides.
Yeah.
Scara starting off with the wall, was able to trap NK Inc., but then just getting a little bit too close to the wall himself. So Amumu bandage tossing over the wall was
great.
able to pick up that kill onto Anivia. And that was just really cool to watch. So, everyone getting very low for both sides. You saw Dignitas, they still had a slight advantage. But the big thing was that Meat Playground, they have a lot of CC with Aurelia, Zyra, and Amumu. That's single target CC. It allows them to pick down members of Dignitas. So even though Dignitas is, getting slight advantages in these fights, they're not able to turn it around and follow up on it. But Meat Playground is able to pick people off one at a time and not allow Dignitas to kite them very effectively. So Dignitas, they grab the dragon, yes, but 8K gold advantage, not really increasing as much as it potentially could be. So we'll see if Meat Playground can turn this around.
And also remember, for the next few fights, for the next few about 3 minutes, that egg is not going to be up for Anivia. So if you manage to get that great single target initiation coming in again from Meat Playground, Scar is going to be going down that much quicker in the next few minutes, and that could allow Meat Playground to just go ahead and grab even more stacked kills on top of that. Or it also gives them an opportunity to force objectives, like Baron if they so desire. But unfortunately, Crumbs' ult is up, Dominate's ult is back up. So it's still going to be a hard fight. But they've got a little bit of a feather in their cap for the time being, for the next about 2 minutes.
Oh, and I think Dignitas, they're going to try and pick them off here. Maybe just, I don't know, we'll see if
waiting.
they're going to flank them or not. But Crumbs, he's making his move forward, throws off the ultimate. They grab the turret, but the Skarner ult, Amumu's actually in the middle of the team, bandage tossing onto Cutie Pie, but Cutie Pie is safe. We'll get away from X-Hazard. X-Hazard actually almost taking him down. A couple of attacks, the flash from Cutie Pie, and Meat Playground, they've turned this around. The Flash Frost, X-Hazard almost going down, but they have the chasing potential. Light Sludge will back off for a second, and a 2-for-1 exchange. Dignitas falling a little bit behind there in that fight. Fortunately, not losing all their members. That would have been devastating.
That was, it was an okay initiation from Crumbs. It was okay. Yeah. It may possibly a little hasty, but it was a solid ult. Grabbed a lot of members of Meat Playground, but unfortunately they just were not able to connect as they would like to.
Well, the big thing with that Crumbs ultimate is it was indicative of Dignitas's pressure right now of their where their mindset is, and in their mind they're so far ahead of Meat Playground that they should be winning these fights. And you've seen the past couple of fights, Dignitas, they're ahead in life, and Meat Playground is just barely able to survive and get one kill and keep the fights even. So in Dignitas's mind, if they catch them out in the open where they can still chase, they're going to win the fight, which is why they threw off the Rumble ultimate. The Rumble ultimate, it allows you to engage very easily, it allows you to catch up to your the team, but then all of a sudden Amumu with the bandage toss right back onto Cutie Pie. So his bandage toss followed up by his ultimate, followed up by X-Hazard chasing down Cutie Pie, and getting all of that pressure on the AD carry is just huge. Even when Ezreal is already very safe, he has the cleanse as well, or had it in that last fight. Even when Ezreal's generally very safe, having all of that pressure just completely shut him out of the fight. And as a result, they missed out on a lot of that damage. He actually has to buy a QSS, which fortunately, he's very deep into his build, so he can afford it, but it's still a lot of pressure.
The fact that you need a QSS and cleanse in order to be a factor in all of these fights does speak to to the pressure.
Oh, they're rushing it.
They're rushing it.
They are rushing it. Oh no, they're sitting in the.
They're just waiting. They're waiting to try and force it. X-Hazard now sees them. Actually, he's like, "Oh, you're all clumped up. You're all scared in the corner, hugging your teddy bears." Like, no, nightmares are coming. And Dignitas actually seeing that, realize, well, our plan's been found out. I guess we just need to back off.
Yeah, so not quite able to pick him off, but you see, that kind of, I don't know, shenanigans is just Dignitas. They're not quite sure. They're hesitant about themselves right now because the AoE from Meat Hazard could easily win fights right now. And Aurelia, Zyra, and Corki are all phenomenal into the late game. It's going to be really difficult to see how Dignitas is going to deal with that. But with the Anivia pick, they're generally going to be pretty safe. So it's just making sure they have enough damage. And I don't know. We'll see. Aurelia more and more could just become too tanky for them to deal with.
But then again, that play is actually it's a pretty good play when it works. And unfortunately, X-Hazard was the one to just spoil everything. But we had it in our top 5 shows. It's just that Dragon, not Baron. That was from our EU elites, I believe.
Yeah, and that's a little bit earlier in the game, and yeah, I mean, it can be a very nice play, but they're fortunate. Aurelia spotting him off there. If Amumu had followed up with a bandage toss and then an ultimate inside the Baron, and they're all that close together, that could have been devastating. Like, Dignitas could have all just instantly died, basically, and that's a serious concern. So Dignitas, they need to split up. They need to, not allow that backline penetration, but what that also means is that they need to be forcing the fights with Dominate pulling someone back, and in particular, not allowing Mumu to get the engage. So we'll see. The big thing is that Dignitas, they can't allow Mumu to get back in their team. They need to kite him a little bit more effectively, and they don't have a very strong means of disengaging other than Anivia. So, maybe they could wall off after a Mumu engages, then Anivia walls off to try and split the rest of the team so they can focus down Amumu in safety. But we'll see how they kind of handle that.
It's always a struggle. It's always a struggle when you have a Nunu and an Amumu on the same team when you're casting down Mumu, Nunu.
I know, I've been saying it the entire game. I keep on saying a Nunu and a Mumu.
A Nunu. They should just have a skin.
All right, this is like Swedish Chef, so let's, the cast is just slowly degrading. Well, not degrading necessarily, because the Muppets are fantastic.
Enhancing. The cast is being enhanced by the sheer thought of the Muppets. How about that?
All right, we can say that theoretically, but I think we both know otherwise.
Yeah, well, no, it's already happened. The cast is already that much better. So you got so right now, Dignitas is still dancing around. They're still skirting around Baron, but you look right now. There's an Oracle's onto Nunu. They're going to grab that ward inside the pit, back off immediately, and it really looks like Meat Playground is trying to force this. They're not actually going aggressively into the pit. They're all holding back, waiting in those one or two bushes to see if they can't force something. Because one of the biggest tools Dignitas has is the fact that they have a great engage if they can get it. So if Meat Playground can out-surprise them, make sure that Dominate does not get that hook, make sure that Crumbs does not get that pull, they can really make something happen. But there you go, quick sneak of the Dragon, and you got everyone in the bush. And Dignitas, they know exactly where they are. NKing flashing in with the ult, keeping everyone stunned. Dominate wants to get someone, doesn't manage to get Light Sludge, bring him back, but the rest of the team is too busy dealing with X Hazard down in the back. And Dignitas, they're just tunnel visioning in onto the Aurelia, wanted to make sure she was dead. They could have gotten a lot more.
Yeah, but that was actually the 100% right decision from Dignitas.
Yeah.
And, Aurelia in the backline is the biggest threat for them right now, because they can deal with Corki. Ezreal has the damage to deal with Corki. Corki's very strong right now, but it was really just Corki. And there was Zyra as well. They could have maybe picked up those kills, but by focusing down Aurelia, Dominate with fantastic presence in that team fight, because they want to be split out of the AoE, but Dominate split the teams. And because Dominate was tanky enough, he has that Frozen Heart, he was able to dive straight at Meat Playground. They're able to take this inhibitor very quickly. It will go down one last attack, and then they get out of there with the Shirelias. Great play from Dignitas. So the big thing with that last fight, Dominate, he dove right towards the enemy, and they were all distracted with him. And it split the fight just as they want to. So they were still caught by Amumu, they were still caught by Aurelia, but Ezreal wasn't. And Ezreal was safe on the side. He was able to get the damage. They were able to focus down Amumu and Aurelia from separate from the rest of the team. So even though Dominate went down, none of the damage from Corki went onto the Ezreal. None of the damage went onto Anivia or anything. So Scar was able to respawn after that egg, and they were able to turn it around. But Meat Playground, they're in position to grab this Baron. Erwin Booz almost going down. A couple more attacks. Cutie Pie, the perfect wall off from Scara.
Wow, that was picture perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I think we're going to have to go back eventually and see that one again. Actually, we got time.
We can see all of them.
We got time. There's just a little bit more, because that wall off was just so very nice. And plus, Warden is like, oh, there's a ward at the far end of the pit. Maybe I'll clear it. Whoops. There you go, Erwin. Nice, wonderful placement. Just could not even walk the long way around.
It's a big wall.
It's a huge wall.
The big thing is Scara had the presence to just sit around for a second, and they were all about to recall, but they realized, okay, hey guys, this is opening up an opportunity for Meat Playground where they might be able to rush this Baron, and that would be, serious, dangerous situation for us if they were able to get that. So, he sits back for a second. He just wants to make sure if anyone walks into the pit, he knows they can grab him off, and so just waiting for that opportunity was able to take it down.
Very, very well done. So, and also that's also going to delay Meat Playground just a little bit. They're going to be a little less antsy to go ahead and try and push objectives like that again.
Oh, yeah.
Erwin Booz out front. See, just fast forward, man. I got to get used to this.
Yeah, it's just buggy sometimes.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Dignitas, they're in a great position now, and they've been able to pull back the game to their advantage again. It is still only a 7K gold lead, and Meat Playground is getting stronger and stronger. So we'll see if Dignitas can continue to run the fights the way they want to.
There you go. Nice wall off coming from Anivia as Meat Playground is emerging from the blue. That Nunu ult is going to get nobody. Not a single person. Like, oh, Nunu's ulting. We'll just fall back and we'll let him die. We'll let him die on his own. And Erwin Boo's just unfortunately going to be a victim to that poor positioning. Dominate again. Who's he going to hook? He's aiming towards Light Sludge, but he's actually going to be more content trying to get NK Inc. That's going to be fine. Crumbs go with the shields from Lulu. Actually going to save his butt right there. But unfortunately, the wall from Scar going to be a little bit too much, even for his own team, to go ahead and pursue anything else.
Yeah, and so they'll have to back off, and they'll have to, get that Baron on the second time. But, it is a really nice fight for them. They do have to watch out. QtPie actually going to be dueling with X-Hazard here. He can actually win this if he gets the Anivia help. The Flash Frost, X-Hazard is stunned and will go down very quickly. They can follow it up on the Connect. The slow after the wall off, the double kill for QtPie. Really, the result of his teammates. Oh, the pick off from Connect.
Still, man, that Zyra pass, you cannot forget about that thing. But also, got to mention here as well, Guardian Angel on the QtPie.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the GA right off the bat might have been a little bit better of a decision for QtPie to have that survivability against the burst. But it's interesting because he knows he has enough damage from his team already. They have plenty of damage as long as they run the fights in a smart manner. So he wants both. And the big thing is the Quicksilver Sash, it allows him to disengage from Aurelia. Guardian Angel doesn't allow that. So Guardian Angel, even if he's bursted down, Aurelia can just sit around and be like, oh, you just respawn. Okay, you're dead now. The Quicksilver Sash helps negate that kind of thing, whereas the GA is a little bit more for the burst from the rest of the champions. So kind of interesting to see two defensive items, but the big thing is the rest of the team has enough damage, and there's not a lot of armor yet onto Meat Playground. The only champion is Aurelia. Other than Aurelia, everyone else is armorless, which means that Ezreal doesn't have to rush into that Last Whisper yet, doesn't have to rush into his other items, and he's actually going to transition into an Infinity Edge, possibly other big DPS item, instead of ever getting that Last Whisper.
So you also got NK Inc. here with that Banshee's Veil, wants to ensure that he can actually get into the middle of the fight, get his positioning, get to where he needs to be, and actually get off that ult. That is his mission objective. And if he can get that, he'll be fine. But things though, he's being caught out in a lot of these fights. He's being suppressed in a lot of these fights. And that Banshee's ult, at the very least, will help him take one more hit. Hopefully absorb a stun or something so he can actually be a better factor moving forward.
Yeah, and now Dignitas, they're pressuring this Baron. They are actually going to go for it. The ward does spot QtPie, so they know that they're doing it right now, but they don't know how quickly, and it is dropping very fast. The wall off, NK Inc. jumping into Ascara, but unfortunately is way out of position. There is no follow-up from Aurelia at the wall, and actually the Mumu ultimate. QtPie has to back out of there. X-Hazard getting into the backline, but QtPie has the damage, the ultimate to split the rest of the team. X-Hazard is still in the backline, but a little bit hesitant to go in. He jumps in for the kill on Descara. Ezreal is way out of position here, chasing down Zyra, is able to pick it up, but X-Hazard split from the rest of the team, and Dignitas has won this fight in spectacular fashion. Dominate, chasing down X-Hazard. They get that other kill, and they will be able to push in for an inhibitor, maybe even the Nexus in game.
I think this may very well be game, because that was 4 for free. The timers on everyone for Meat Playground is just a little bit too much to handle, and there's definitely the damage from QtPie to go ahead and take down those towers. Lickety split, you get the minion wave coming on in, and Erwin Boost is the only one here to defend, and QtPie is just like, you know what, I don't like you there. Yeah, we don't even. You're not going to be a factor in helping defend this. I just want you gone. But you know what? Both Nexus towers will go down. There is the wall of coming in from Scar. You want to see if they can actually still secure it. But the Nexus is naked. Focusing it now. QtPie should be able to chunk that out in time. And King's going to be back in 2-1 seconds, but it's not going to be enough. There you go. Game number 1 going to be going to Dignitas. Very well done.
Yeah, really impressive play from Dignitas. Meat Playground as well. They had a couple of opportunities. They ran a couple of fights through that mid game that they just almost were able to take it from Dignitas, and it was really impressive seeing that they had the burst damage with their AOE, where it looked like maybe they would be able to turn it around, and Dignitas was maybe going to just fall short. But Dignitas turning it around themselves, everyone just playing at a really high level, was really impressive to see. And Crumbs, doing a really nice job out of that top lane. The interesting thing was the fact that Crumbs was able to take an early advantage against Aurelia, but then even when Aurelia had the damage to bully him around in lane, Crumbs would just leave the lane. He would roam around, he would try and pick up kills for the rest of his team. He was still keeping up on farm. Crumbs had 300 CS in that game, despite the fact that he was in and out of top lane through a lot of that game, that he was with his teammate for the Dragons, and able to put on that map presence.
And also, not to mention, we talked about before about NK Inc., about the choice of builds, about going for the rings instead of the GP10s, and the gold does reflect that, a lot of it. And let's face it, sometimes things need to be questioned when you have less gold than the support.
Yeah, no, I mean, the supports tend to have a lot of gold, though, just because they get to run gold runes and masteries, which is just like cheating, almost. So, it is kind of interesting in that regards. But I don't know. He had a lot of nice plays. I think the big thing that I would consider, maybe, they had a lot of magic damage, and that was the concern. They had a double AP comp, and so he was thinking in his mind that Ezreal wasn't going to do that much. But as a result of him not getting any early armor, he just finally bought a chain vest at the very end of the game. Not having armor earlier on, it allowed Cutie Pie to wear him down, and every single fight, Amumu was burst down almost instantly, and that allowed them to take their focus off of Amumu after they get that quick kill, and then on to Aurelia. And then even though X-Hazard had the Warmogs and was incredibly tanky, they were still able to focus him down.
Yeah, and even then, the Banshee's Veil that was eventually purchased only really saw play in one fight, and it didn't really do a whole hell of a lot. So, but you know what? That's fine. It's not the end of the series. You still have game number 2 coming up. There's still a chance for Me Playground to go ahead and take this series. And you know what? Even if any, with the losing team, they're still not out of it. They still have a third place match to play. TSM, they're a part of that. So we'll see. They're still going to be around. They still got contention. They still got a chance for a little bit of cash. But while we're getting game number 2 set up, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back. Second semifinals for the NA Elites. Me Playground Dignitas, game number 2, coming on up.